Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Get ready, because this one is a doozy.
Oh yeah, this one is going to be really interesting.
We're going to be talking about a $1 trillion opportunity.
$1 trillion?
This isn't about, some hot new stock tip or the latest gadget or
cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, Johan?
What's happening here, Shannon?
So today we are diving into...
Deep diving.
Yeah, deep diving into the world of the $1 Trillion Opportunity podcast.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it really is.
I think we can take it from here. Hello, and welcome to the $1 Trillion Opportunity. I'm Shannon Austin.
And I'm the real Johan Bussini.
We are the real human hosts of this podcast.
Though not for long. Sounds like we have some real AI podcast host competition happening.
I'm not excited about that. The reality is that generative AI is transforming everything from podcasts to financial technology all over the world.
Exactly right. Gen AI is quickly becoming a powerful force across virtually every industry, including financial services across the world.
So this week, we thought we'd break down how Gen AI is creating opportunity by exploring some use cases in emerging markets. We've got Quona founding partner Monica Brand Engel back on the podcast, alongside Michel Zaidler, our senior investment associate who's based in Brazil. Hi, Monica and Michel. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
I understand you're both fresh off a major AI event that MIT put on in New York. Tell us about it.
It was fantastic. Great to see so many enthusiasts from around the world.
It's great to see many of our portfolio companies being featured in the event and showcasing the great work they've been doing on innovating across 2 different markets.
Amazing. So Monica, jumping into the AI here, what was your aha moment when you realized Gen AI could play a major role for startups in emerging markets?
Actually, interestingly, it was first in a company that uses technology to help bring efficiencies to the mom and pop shops in the supply chain in North Africa called Maxoko. What I discovered was that they were using Gen AI to actually do dynamic pricing. So to bring some of the cost savings that you get when you start increasing volumes of trade down to the customer level in that mom and pop shop. And that's when we realized there are some very real use cases for Gen AI in our emerging markets.
Fascinating. And dynamic pricing is such a good example. Michel, I understand you kind of jumped into AI with both feet. What surprised you when you began your research?
I'd say what has been fascinating to me is observing how versatile and general purpose this technology is, with highly transformative applications across virtually every industry and every subsegment of financial services. And more specifically, how rich and diverse has been the amount of innovation that companies all across the world are deploying by adapting this technology to their specific markets, to their specific business needs, putting different spins and leveraging different building blocks to simply create more value to consumers and SMEs that still are starving for access to better solutions in the different markets in which we operate.
So let's get to what we're seeing on the ground. What does AI look like in emerging markets? What are the opportunities ahead of us?
It's fascinating. We actually decided to do some research and took a sample of dozens of our companies to understand how are they using generative AI in their actual business models. And what we're seeing is not only some fascinating innovation, but realizing that it's a blue ocean, that the market environment in these emerging countries is much less competitive than you might see in the US or more developed markets. And so that creates a compelling opportunity where we can scale and experiment with some real use cases that affect the everyday consumer and small business.
Awesome. And by the way, that research that you mentioned there, Monica, we have a Gen AI paper that Quona has published. And so we'll be sure to put a link to that in this week's show notes for our listeners.
Many of our businesses are experimenting around building on the infrastructure like OpenAI that's been developed, again, in these more mature markets.
Let us give you a quick taste on some interesting developments we have seen. In Latin America, for example, Klar has definitely been a strong early adopter. For those who do not know about Klar, Klar is one of the largest consumer banks in Mexico. And what is quite remarkable about that is the fact that they are serving millions of customers with a team of only about 200 employees, which is way, way less than what we typically see in fintech businesses with such level of scale. Leveraging AI all across the organization has been one of the key reasons why they've been able to do so while still delivering best-in-class customer satisfaction. Though they have multiple use cases under production, there are probably one or two that would be interesting to highlight here.
What are some use cases you've seen?
The first one is a set of AI agents that they developed for performing debt collections. Arguably, one of the most important activities of a credit business is collecting back. And from a technical point of view, the solution is based on a multi-agent structure in which they have several AI agents, each one of responsibility for a narrow task, working together to achieve this broader goal of collecting better while providing a great friendly experience to end customers. So they have one AI agent that is focused on speaking with customers, another one that is responsible for retrieving the data from the user, analyzing it, and providing recommendations on the appropriate level of discounts to be offered to that specific user, another agent that handles payments, and so on and so forth. And on top of all of these agents, they also have an AI supervisor and an AI manager who are approving every message that goes to a user before it goes out.
It's really interesting.
And just to give you a sense on how powerful this can be, this solution is already delivering an increase in net recovery rates of about 15 to 20%. The second very interesting and exciting initiative that the company is working on is an AI-powered financial advisor. The idea here is simply providing personalized recommendations to users on how to better manage their personal finances based on individual user data and across their main needs, such as transacting, saving, or accessing credit. This AI agent, for example, would be able to tell a customer early on that he or she is likely to experience a cash flow gap at a specific point in time, and therefore they should aim to save a given amount of dollars or take a credit to cover this hole. Another example would be the creation of investment plans that are most appropriate to that specific customer. And as you can see, this can go in many directions, but all in all, the beauty here is providing personalization at scale with a low cost to serve, and which will have a profound impact on evolving customer experiences to a whole new level, which is now finally possible with the advancements we've been observing on AI.
I love the predictive aspects of that. It's so fascinating to think about letting people know when they're about to overspend.
We've seen loads of exciting results from the first wave of generative AI applications in emerging markets. We've seen lower costs, we've seen better customer experiences, higher revenue. Can you share some examples of how generative AI is unlocking growth opportunities in emerging markets?
Turning from LATAM to Africa, we have a portfolio company called SUKHIBA, which interestingly is using generative AI around conversational commerce. So taking habits that everyday merchants use, which is using WhatsApp to make orders, and using AI to make that unstructured data and translating it into commerce. And they're now they work with large FMCG goods, and now they're actually developing use cases for new industry verticals like insurance. So one of those featured companies at the MIT conference was SUKHIBA, really showing a demo and talking through how powerful this technology and how versatile it is across a number of industry verticals.
We're actually hearing about decreased transaction times. What did they say at the MIT event about that?
They were able to reduce transaction time by over 90%. So interestingly, they're using this generative AI to support people. So it doesn't displace jobs. It actually supports the sales force so they can focus more on customer experience and take some of the more administrative work in terms of the application processing and streamline that powerfully.
Fascinating stuff. Michel, anything to add?
Absolutely. I think our Asia team would be a little bit mad if we didn't mention Onsurity in India, which is doing interesting things in the insurance space. As you all know, insurance is a great industry for the application of Gen AI because it's an industry that is still very much based on paper and still full of manual processes. Onsurity, which is a full stack insurtech platform offering health insurance to SME companies in India and serving hundreds of thousands of individuals, leveraging large language models to automate the processing of claims, using those models to read very detailed healthcare data and ingesting this data into different systems to make this process not only more automated, but faster and with a substantially lower cost to serve, which ultimately enables them to provide cheaper plans to their customers in the end of the spectrum.
Absolutely incredible. I love these stories. And the dynamic pricing thing scares me a little bit as a person who drives a lot and sees dynamic pricing in practice on the highway for the tolls locally. I know some of us know the feeling.
But Shannon, it's amazing. It's reducing the cost to the consumer. So what's so cool about this is actually ending up benefiting not just the small business, but actually the end consumer in Africa. So it's so cool.
And that is absolutely AI that I think we can all get behind. And I really would like some AI that could pick up kids at swim practice. I'm ready for that. What about you, Johan?
Sign me up.
This will happen soon, Shannon.
Do you promise, Michel? I'm going to hold you to it.
You need to take care of your wishes.
Did you hear that, Siri? That's all for this episode of The $1 Trillion Opportunity. Join us next time for a fireside chat with Carlos Brandt, one of the brilliant minds behind Pix, the real-time payment system in Brazil.
Check out this week's show notes for a link to download Quona's generative AI paper. Follow The $1 Trillion Opportunity on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or whatever you listen to podcasts on.
The $1 Trillion Opportunity is produced by Quona and Pod People. Our producers are Danielle Roth, Hannah Pedersen, and Sam Gebauer. David DeLuca edits the show. Special thanks to Rachel King and Amy Machado.
We'll see you next week.